All right, so welcome everyone to our February Northwest Florida Panhandle meetup. This is one of our first lunch and learns, so I hope everyone has grabbed a sandwich, a snack, or some crackers, and is ready to sit back and enjoy a wonderful presentation today. All right, so a little bit about Doug, or Dynamics User Group, if you're not familiar. We are a community of 47,000 members strong and growing. I think when we first started this group about 2 years-ish ago, that used to say 45,000. So that's pretty exciting that we're growing. Founded in 1995. The goals are to build community, encourage connections, and empower education. It's a free community for members to join. If you're not a member, you can check it out at dynamicsusergroup.com to join for free. So as we get ready to head into our presentation, just some quick rules of engagement. Please be courteous, allow the speaker to present. If you have some questions, we do have the Q&A enabled here in the chat. So you can either drop it into the chat or the Q&A, and I'll keep an eye on those. And as natural pauses in the presentation occur, we'll ask those questions. But feel free to use the hand raise functionality. I think we have a large enough group here today that if we use that functionality just to keep everyone on the same page, feel free to contribute to the meeting in a positive way. But also let everyone participate. If you have several questions, ask one at a time and allow others to ask questions before you kind of throw all of your questions out there. We want to keep this a space that we're all learning. You know, this isn't, no one's here to sell you anything. We're here to just learn as a community together. Here are some of the user group programs. I'll highlight a couple here. So you've already figured out about Doug meetups because you are at one, right? So these are local meetups for anyone to join. I don't know. I think there might be 2 of us that are actually local to Northwest Florida on the call. If anybody else is, raise your hand or throw it in the chat that you are joining us from the Florida Panhandle. But I know we do have some from Chicago, some DC. So feel free to drop in the chat where you are joining us from, because it's always exciting to see, you know, who's interested in joining. There's also regionals, which are kind of larger scale meetups that are going on around the country, and conferences. So we do have DynamicsCon 2026 coming up in May in Las Vegas. This session will be recorded, or is being recorded, and will be out on our YouTube channel at the end. So we'll get that link out on Meetup for you. If you're interested in getting any updates for local and special interest Doug meetups, there is a QR code here you can scan to fill out this form and stay informed of when there is an event coming up. Registration for DynamicsCon 2026 in Las Vegas is open now. It will be May 12th through May 15th of this year. There's some DynamicsCon regionals coming up. So starting in March 20th in the Pacific Northwest, Denver on April 9th, Toronto in June, and Africa on July 25th. Ohio Valley in August, that's going to be a 2-day event. Montreal in September. Europe in October, perfect time to go to Germany in October. And then Houston, Texas in November. So if you are interested in any of those events, there's a QR code here where you can get more information and stay up to date on those meetups. Keep losing my mouse over here. And that's all I have for the introduction. I did see in the chat someone said they wish they were in Florida, that it is cold. It was 26 degrees when I woke up here. in the Florida Panhandle this morning. It was 80 on Sunday or Saturday. So big contrast here. So we may not be too big of different in temperatures there. But I will turn it over to Kylie for our presentation on practical AI.
Perfect. Yeah, so not much snow on the ground now, but probably still more than down there in Florida. But yeah, so my presentation here, this is a newer presentation. I think this is the second time that I've done it. So still kind of figuring out what makes sense and what you guys want to hear about. So happy to get any feedback or insights on that as well. Let me make sure I turn off my notifications. Why would it still be? Oh, because I have two Teams things. I hate this. Okay, fine. We'll see. So we're yeah, so goal of this presentation is I kind of want to talk about a lot of the different AI offerings that are available to users, and then also the AI, also what I can do to configure those, and hopefully we'll do some examples. And feel free to ask questions as we go along, or if we want to redirect, we can do that as well. So I'm Kylie Kiser. As I said in the chat, I'm based in Windsor, Ontario. I am an MVP and a fast track recognized solution architect, and I've been doing this since 2010, I think. So a fair number more than 10 years, but I feel like putting any higher numbers than that makes me look very old, which I'm not prepared for. And currently enjoying some temporary retirement, then gonna look for contracts in a little bit. So and you'll see my contact stuff there where you can watch some more of my content. So encourage you to connect with me and all that fun stuff. So here's our agenda for today. I want to do a quick introduction to like, what is AI? What are we even talking about? Set our foundation. Then we'll talk about the tools that are already available for our users, and then the tools for makers. And we'll talk a little bit about building AI. And at the end, we'll look at some prompts. And I'm going to try and call out throughout licensing implications and things like that. The one other note to keep in mind is that these titles and names of products, as you know, keep changing all the time. So please be aware of that and be prepared for these things. Why is this still popping up? Hold, please. I don't turn off. Apologies, folks. Okay, let's try that. Perfect. Okay. So let's get started with a quick introduction to AI, right? So I just want to set the foundations of what we're talking about. I think some of this stuff is things we're already aware of, but I do want to make sure that we're all on the same page, right? So obviously we're talking about artificial intelligence, which is anything that allows our machines to kind of simulate human intelligence to some extent, and that these systems can learn and then help us solve problems. And we've seen this transforming a lot of industries, right? So this is something that we really have started talking about within the last 2 years, but it's been happening for many years before that. It's just become much more kind of accessible for regular people in the last few years. And we see that transformation happening, so we have to be prepared and ready to work with that and ready to kind of accept those things within our business. I think the other thing we want to keep in mind as well is we heard a lot when Copilot came out, there was this saying, right, like Copilot, not autopilot, right? So it was a way of giving your users and your makers information, but then you had to check it and verify before anything was done. But now we're kind of moving into the realm of agents where some of that work is going to be done automatically. So our kind of our testing and our quality control and all of that becomes really important to make sure that we don't have things happening that we didn't intend to be happening, right? Mm-hmm. So We also want to talk about some of the key types of AI. So this is when we talk about like experience-based AI, it fits into, come on, fits into these categories. I'm gonna mute somebody. Perfect. Stop. Slides are fighting with me, guys. It's just not my day. So we have predictive AI, forecasting, scoring, recommendations, things like that. Also generative AI when we're creating text or images. Then we have the conversational AI, which would be like our chats and our co-pilots, things like that. And then embedded in AI, like insights that we're seeing within apps and workflows, right? And those are all different things we see throughout our Dynamics products, right? And I did want to quickly call out before we get into this that Microsoft has a kind of robust, responsible AI playbook and some documentation that I really encourage you to check out. This is a slide I stole from them. But anytime we're talking about AI, we really need to keep these principles in mind because we are still responsible for what the AI does, right? And so we need to ensure that when we're building these AI models that they are inclusive and fair, that they are safe, that we're not going to have anything that causes harm, right, from this AI model. We also want to make sure that the data we're putting into that AI model is not biased and causing the results to not be inclusive and not fair, right? And also making sure we're not training that with personal data that could be a security risk. And then remember that at the end of the day, we want these models to be transparent so that I could explain what this model is doing and why it's doing it. And remember that as the developer of this AI model, I'm still accountable for its behavior, right? So we can't get to the point of just blaming things on AI, but we need to remember that we're still accountable for the actions that that's taking. And I think that that's important for as we're talking about all these topics, right? So let's jump into some of the user tools. So I want to call out things that are already in place within some of our Dynamics products. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the licensing for those as well. And most of these require kind of limited configuration, and then they should be able to help your users just be more productive, right? So we have Copilot, of course, and everything is called Copilot. There are Copilots everywhere. And there's a difference between how I would describe it as the Copilot in customer service and the Copilot for customer service. This used to be the branding. I believe they've changed those names again, but it's a little bit easier to break it down in the in and for. So I'm still going to explain it that way. And then we can double check all the naming later. The thing to keep in mind is when we say these Copilot ins, that's what you're seeing showing up here on the right-hand side navigation, or you're seeing it within your Dynamics, in this case, within customer service. And that is all included in your premium licensing, right? When we talk about Copilot for customer service, for example, that would be the tool that's within Outlook, and it can connect with Dynamics customer service or with Salesforce or with other tools, and those require an additional licensing cost, right? So I just want to kind of separate those because for me, there's a lot of confusion with that, and that's kind of one of the ways you can break up what's happening, right? And when we talk about Copilot in customer service, there are the pieces that are in that pane in the Copilot chat, but there are also some pieces that show up right within the form, right? So on the form, we would have the case summary. We can do summaries of the timeline, for example, and things like that. We also can draft email replies. We can do that either in the right-hand side or right within that email editor. And we also have knowledge articles, so suggestions, and that can happen right when I close the case, and it can suggest a knowledge article and help me actually write that knowledge article based on the details that were in the case. And as we're talking about that, the what was I going to say about the data. So we're saying we could base our knowledge article information based on what's in the case. That obviously implies that I have data in the case. So I meant to call this out kind of in our introduction, but all of this AI stuff requires us to have some kind of data, right? Our insights are only going to be as good as the data that we have. So kind of this is a really good reason to be pushing for more data, push your users to put in more data and all of that, right? I do see we have a question in the chat around the Copilot in the sales enterprise versus the premium license. I think I'll have to look that up. I think Copilot in is included in the enterprise license. I think you're right. I don't think it's in like the basic one, but I'll have to check the names on that. So Tanya, we can look up that at the end of this meeting and confirm that. So similar to customer service, we also have our Copilot in sales, which does some of the same things, our email summaries, our opportunity insights, follow-up, conversational intelligence. And again, you see some of that in the panel on the right-hand side, some of that you see right within the form. And there's a few places that we're doing that. And I think we might talk about it later, but all these things like our account summary, opportunity summaries, and things like that, we can actually make changes to what details go into those summaries and what things get pulled into there. So we can talk about that in a little bit. Also, one of the newer features, I think it's now generally available, but was in preview probably a year ago now, is this smart paste. So let me play this. This is a little video. Yeah, perfect. So what happens here is if I'm creating a new account, I can actually paste in an email. So in this case, I was pasting in an email that contained a whole bunch of words, but included the account, the phone number, and the website. And so when I try to paste it in, it will say, hey, I looked at that email and I identified that these data points were in here that are going to fill out this account, right? And so it's a good way to kind of help put in the data quickly and streamline your data entry. And you can customize the fields that are included in that as well. One thing, we're not going to have time to talk about everything today related to agents, but I did want to call them out. So we talked about this at the beginning, that we have co-pilots that were kind of information that becomes available to us for us to review and enhance and make sure is correct. But then we have agents, which are actually going to do some of the work. So this is one, just an example of an agent, but there are several agents across both sales and customer service and other products as well. So I encourage you to do a little bit more research on those. And all of these agents are going to help you perform and take actions on your behalf. So for example, the sales research agent can actually go out and gather information about companies and contacts and summarize those details so that your sellers can prepare faster with less manual research, and then it can deliver that information so that the seller is prepared, right? There is, for each of these agents, I do want you to look at the licensing. I think it depends on the agent if they're included in the license or how it works, but some of these also require Copilot credits. So that's just something to keep in mind with any of these Copilot items that you're using. Are they going to use Copilot credits, and how many of those are kind of included in your license, or how do you top those up? Like, those are things that you should look at when you're determining your use here. Also keep in mind that most of these Copilot things would save some data about that conversation that fits into your Dataverse storage as well. So there are kind of several components there that you need to think about when you're thinking about licensing. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about the tools that are available for makers. So these are things to help our makers learn and grow and build things faster, right? We talked a lot about licensing from the user experience. Kind of how I've seen the breakdown so far is if it's something for users, then we have to see what licensing is required. Because if a user is going to use it, there will be a license needed somewhere, right? If it's something for the makers to use, then all of that should be included in the licensing, right? Because the idea is if I can make it easier for my makers to build these tools, then I will have more users to use these tools. So the maker doesn't have to pay for the license because you're going to pay for the license for the people who actually use it, right? So, and again, the caveat that I give with all of these things is any of these maker tools do not mean you can just build things without like an architect or someone who knows your system looking at them. A lot of the big things that I want to check when you're building these things is like, is it in a solution? Is it using your publisher? Is it following your organization standards? Like maybe you have certain naming conventions you want to do, things like that. And of course, like checking your security, because those are all things that might be a limitation with some of these items, and they're really important to check and make sure you have somebody who knows your system and knows your standards who can be reviewing and helping with that. So you guys have probably seen some of these, right? I can build an app with Copilot. So when I'm within Power Apps and I go to create a new app, I have the option now to just start with Copilot. So I can describe the app that I want, and then it generates the data model and the screens, and you can continue to kind of discuss with Copilot and refine it as you're building it. I also, once I am within a Power App, even a Power App that I already built kind of outside of this process, you're going to see the little Copilot icon in a few different places so that it can help you do things like generate the formula or explain the formula, or explain errors that are happening, maybe suggest improvements, or if you have built the app through Copilot, then you can use Copilot there to help with your controls in kind of a more natural language way. And similarly, we have the same thing with Power Automate. So I can describe my Power Automate flow and talk through the steps and have it generate the flow for me. That's using a lot of the Power Automate templates, right, that we're used to, and then gives you kind of a jumping off point, and then you can continue to discuss with Copilot once you have built that flow to modify or extend it, get help with your errors, and explain the flow behavior to you. Again, especially with Power Automate, I encourage you to double check all of that logic. I think a lot of these Copilot tools for me are still really great for learning and building your skills, but when you're ready to build it for your enterprise audience, then you might want to start fresh and build it kind of from your way. At least that's how I see it. And I do want to do a quick mini rant about Power Automate, right? So I feel, and I hope that this is encouraging to someone, I feel that Power Automate, it's an emotional roller coaster when you're building it. And I think it's helpful for me to tell people this because a lot of people think that some people think it's easy, right? But I don't think it's easy for anyone, right? You start it, you are full of promise, and then something works and you're like, I'm so brilliant. And then everything fails and you question all of your life choices. You think, how did I end up in this career? Why is anyone paying me to do this? What's even happening? And then you find a slash that was in a wrong place or something silly like that, and then it all works, and then you're like, wow, it's amazing. I can succeed in life, right? And so allegedly, Copilot is going to help us with that, but I do want to encourage you that everyone is feeling that same way. So I hope that the Copilot can help you and that you can be encouraged that we are struggling together. We also have Copilot available within Power Pages. Let me fix this slide that's going to drive me crazy because you can't see what I'm trying to show you. So within Power Pages, we also have Copilot available. So I can make this less ugly. I had hopes for this slide. Good enough. Yeah, so within Power Pages, I can describe what I want, and it can build from a template. For me, build that. I can also use it to help build my forms and sample content and kind of edit this with natural language. And Power Pages is another thing that there are so few people in the industry that have experience with Power Pages and are like successful with Power Pages, and there are a lot of people struggling. So this is, don't spoil it. So this is supposed to help us be able to get started, right? I do want to also, our continued caveat in all of this, right, is Power Pages especially, you really need to be careful about your security. So I encourage you to ensure that you have someone who has that experience to review the site, or maybe you use your Copilot as a kind of jumping off point or as a template and then go from there. And then it's just a great way to kind of get started, but then make sure you have somebody who's actually checking your security especially, right? Next up, we have Plan Designer, and I'm going to pull this up and show it to you as well. But we have two tools, right? Plan Designer, which can describe where you describe a business problem, and it's going to generate the plan and convert that plan into automation and workflows and power apps for you, both Canvas and model-driven apps. So let me show that to you right here. Yeah, so if you look here, this is within Plan Designer, and I just simply put in this business problem, and what comes out of the Plan Designer is it gives you this purpose, gives you the requirements. It's broken this down into different kind of user personas and different processes it thinks you'll need. It's generated a data model, which we're going to look more at. And it's generated some technology that it thinks that I will need, right? And I can actually, from these items, I can click on this plus button to go ahead and actually create kind of those shell apps. And you can do all of this like just within a few minutes. So, and as I'm building this, it is actually, Copilot is walking through and saying, hey, is this what you want? Like, do you want to add different requirements here, different personas? Like, is there anything you want to change? So we've got to the end of that run, but I would have been able throughout to have been giving kind of feedback and changes there. So here on the data side, you can see the data model that it has created for me. And you see I still have Copilot here if I want to change things. And you'll see it's suggesting 3 tables. You'll notice this is just using my default publisher. I believe if I had set my default solution prior for the environment prior to coming in here, then it would be using that publisher. But that's something to keep aware of, right? Especially any of these tools, we want to find out where this is being created and what publisher is being used and all of that, because you don't want someone to come into your solution and see these things and then be like, ew, you didn't know what you were doing, right? And then we can see the objects that are within being created here. I think I have the plan. I don't think I've created the app here yet, but yeah, so and this, as you saw within our plan, this could generate, is suggesting both a Canvas app and a model-driven app that could be created right out of Plan Designer. The other new tool, so I think Plan Designer was announced at Power Platform Conference in 2024. Last year in 2025 at Power Platform Conference, they announced Vibe, which is very similar to Plan Designer, but different. Can still generate our data model, plans, and an app, but it's actually generating a code app that is all magically written. So let me show you what that looks like. If we look here, right, let's go back to our plan. So here we put in the exact same business problem. And then, oh, and note that this Vibe tool is still in preview. So you're going to ask licensing questions, and the answer is, I don't know. So we can generate our user roles, and you'll notice that the user roles that were generated here from Vibe are different from the ones that came from Plan Designer, which is interesting, right? Because these are very similar tools, but kind of using some kind of different AI process, right? So we're generating our user roles. It's going to generate our data model, which is, again, when we look at it, we'll see a few differences. And then it has the technology that it recommends. So we have an app that we're going to look at, the draft app, and then it's also suggesting agents that I can create right from here as well. So it's a little bit different than the suggestions on Plan Designer, but still, interesting things to consider. You'll see it generates my data model over here, kind of our suggestions. And you can see that these might be a little bit different, some different items here that are being suggested. And then we can actually look at the app. Why are you not showing me the screen I want? Let's refresh. Oh, please. I was just looking at it yesterday, but thinking. Let's see if it comes up. But anyways, as this app, we don't care. Please just show us the thing. Okay, it's thinking. Okay, as that loads, what was I saying? Yes. So this is generating an app that is fully custom code, right? So it's not a Canvas app. It's not a model-driven app. It's just a new type of app, a fully custom code app. So the questions that I have around this is, okay, then how am I launching it? Like, what's our security? How are we running any of that? And what's our licensing? And I don't think we have answers to any of that just yet, because this is all in preview. At least that's my understanding so far. But I think it's a really good tool to give us kind of awareness of what we can do and start kind of playing with those ideas. I can also modify the code that's generated here, either through Copilot or myself, right? So it could be something you could deliver to a developer to work on. But I just want to quickly show it to you because you're going to see that this is nothing like the Plan Designer, like our Canvas apps that you're used to seeing. And you can see this is clearly, beautiful, nice design, different from what we're used to seeing within our Canvas apps. So it's a new thing that we're going to be getting more information from in the next few months. Probably when we get the next release wave, I'd expect to see some more information about this. And you'll see right here, I can actually look at all the code that's generated for the app as well, so that I can modify that if that was something that I wanted to do. So very high level overview of those tools, letting you know what's available. Again, like most of these, I'm still kind of the opinion that these are great for giving us some ideas and awareness, and then I can still work with my architects or my team to build something in that direction that aligns with my organizational standards. But there are a lot of announcements that continue to come out of all of that that's really interesting to look at. And I think with both Plan Designer and Vibe, that's really good to, especially the part where I'm breaking it down into my user personas and my requirements. This could be great for your business to start thinking about those pieces instead of just building things. Maybe we can actually kind of guide the direction into those conversations, which could be really good. All right, let's jump ahead into some of the building. So here's some of the things that I can do as a maker to customize and build my AI, right? So I want to say this is our overview of AI Builder, but AI Builder is kind of prompts. Some places you'll still see it called AI Builder, but most places they've fully kind of rebranded to just be called prompts. So in the past, if you're familiar with AI builder, you had you could see your pre-built models, and then you could build your own models and kind of customize those. Now, everything is right within this prompt. So you'll see the things that were pre-built models before are within your templates here of your prompts for like summarizing text, getting information from text, getting text from images, detecting the language, sentiment analysis. All those things are templates now, and that includes like your document processing. So in the past, if you've been to my other AI Builder presentations, we probably did a document processing model, right? Where we actually put in all the images of forms and you had to train it where the data was. And that is not necessary anymore. You're just going to have a prompt and you would be putting in the image of the form, telling it the information to get out, and the prompt will be doing kind of all of that work. And you'll see that I can build my own prompts, and I can actually build them with Copilot, right? So I'm using AI to make AI. And we're going to do an example of this in the next section, but we're going to basically, you put your natural language input in, and then it generates the prompt for you, and you don't have to do any additional training. You can just continue refining that prompt based on the responses that you're seeing. And then once you've built these prompts, you're able to make use of that in Power Automate, either the pre-built template prompts or your own prompt. You'll see within Power Automate, I can choose the action for running a prompt, and then you're going to select the prompt there, and then any of the output from that you can use within further in the flow, right? And a lot of these prompts could do their output in like a JSON format, so you could just I forget the word, breaking apart all the details from your JSON and then using that throughout your flow. We can also do that within Power Automate. So there are a few places that you can use that, and you'll see we can either from the data area, we can go to the AI models and choose to add a data source from one of these AI models that then I'm going to use just within Power FX to access that AI model. And this could include your custom prompts or custom models. Or you can use the insert AI Builder items. So we still see it called AI Builder here. And these items would be inserting like a camera icon, for example, where I could take a picture of a business card and then it's pulling out the business card reader items, right? So, and lots of things that I can do within Power Apps using those. I can also make use of these prompts within Copilot, and there's a few things I can modify within Copilot. But when I go into Copilot Studio, I can view I can make custom Copilots, or I can view the existing Copilots. So this is like Copilot in Sales or something in my screenshot, I think. And here I can add things like adding additional data sources, adding a connector that I want to get data from, and you can also extend these to use your prompts as well, and be able to get information from those. So all of these are ways that I can do low code updates to the AI and updates to my models, and things that I can kind of enhance the AI offerings for my users or adding them in other flows and apps. So I want to talk quickly as well a little bit more in detail about prompts. And I think all of us have learned a lot more about prompts in the last few years as we're trying to get better at just using the AI in anything we're doing, right? And so when we're building a prompt, it's the instructions that we're giving to that AI model that we're going to define the tone, the structure, and the output. And we want this prompt to be really clear to ensure we can get those consistent results. So the things that are really important for a good prompt are context, like what are we doing, why are we doing this, the task, the format of the results that we want to get. Sometimes we'll want to add examples of the types of response we're expecting to get, and any constraints. How does this need to fit within a certain number of characters? Is there information we don't want to see, etc. So then, like we've talked about, once I build these prompts, I can use them throughout the platform in my Dynamics Copilots, in other Copilot Studios, Power Apps, and Power Automate. So I do want to show you what that looks like. So we can look at a quick example. So let's pop over here to our prompts. I'm going to refresh this to make sure nothing is mad at me. So here's what we saw in the screenshot. We see all of our templates for our prompts here, or I can create my own prompt. So I'm going to click on that. So everything here on this left-hand side is the prompt I'm using. On the right-hand side would be my test responses. And you'll see that I can also choose which AI model I want to use. And I could also, if I had a custom model that I had built for my business in Azure AI Foundry, I could add that as well and make use of that, right? And you'll see I can build there's a few ways I can build this. I can use a template, I can build it myself, or I can use Copilot, which is what we're going to do in this example. The other thing you should know is I can add content here if I want them to process an image or text, or if I want to connect with Dataverse and get data from there. So for example, I could connect to my account table and say that I need to look for accounts that meet a certain criteria. That might be a bad example, but if I had some data within Dataverse that I need to use to power my prompt, I can do that. So let me close this so we can start again with Copilot. And I have a sample here. So we're just going to create a summary of a customer complaint. And I'm just going to drop that into Copilot, and you're going to see the prompt that it creates, which is clearly better than any prompt that I could create, right? So it's saying we're going to analyze a document and we want to get a summary and the sentiment, right? So we're going to get summary, sentiment, and any issues. And it's providing, here's the JSON I want it to be in, and you'll be able to parse out. That's the word I was forgetting earlier. You could parse this out even within Power Automate, right, to use this differently, and any extra guidelines we have here. So if I want to test this, I'm going to keep this. If I want to test this, I need to provide some input, right? So here it says it's expecting to get a document. I don't want it to be a document. I want it to be just text. Can I just copy text in? Let's see. I'm going to, hold please. I have a sample feedback. Let me see if it will let me copy it in like this. So I'm going to just drop in. I don't want it to be an image. That's fine. We're going to do what we have to do. Actually, we're going to change it. Boy. Add content, and I want it to be text input. I'm going to copy in my sample feedback, put it in as my customer feedback here. I'm going to close that. I'm going to get rid of this input document. We're going to delete that. Provide the document to analyze here, and then we can test it. So kind of this was expecting us to have a image, but we just updated that to expect text. But you'll see I can have different kind of types of feedback that I could put in, or I could even connect to like a SharePoint library or trigger this on a SharePoint library, all the things like that. So the feedback that I put in as my sample is, I'm unhappy with the system and how it's performing. Nothing is working. Here's everything that's wrong, all kinds of stuff, right? And so the summary that it came out of here, customer is dissatisfied, this is negative, here are the issues, here are the top issues, and they're all broken out. And so this was a model that we created, you know, in just a few minutes, and we'd be able to make use of this within, like we talked about, all of those other tools that we have available. And I can just save this as I can just save this and need to test the prompt. I did test it. Are you lying to me? Perfect. Yeah, so then I can save this and make use of it in all my other tools. And you'll see we have our response time, and we also have the talk about the AI Builder credit, which I think is now part of the Copilot credits, but that's when we talk about licensing, some of those things that we need to figure out and manage in there is how many credits is this using, and how many credits are included in my current licensing, or how many additional credits do I need to purchase. And there's a lot of changes that continue to happen with that, so something to keep an eye on. Yeah, so just within a few minutes, I use Copilot to create that prompt, and I can edit that prompt and continue working on it, and based on my results, use other things. And you'll see if we look at like any of these existing models, you can see they're kind of the same thing, right? They have their instructions, they have their inputs that they're putting in, and I can even make changes to these and keep working. Yeah, so that was a very quick overview. I think everything that kind of the key takeaways, what I wanted you to get from this presentation is a lot of these AI features are already embedded within sales and customer service, available for your makers to, or your users to start using and improving their workflow. And also there is a lot that our makers can do to build with AI and improve what they're building, but also for makers to start building AI without needing to understand everything about building the model, but they can be building these prompts still in a low code fashion. And then of course, we want to start small and then keep integrating on these things and build things that are helpful to our users. So that's all I have. I encourage you guys to connect with me, follow along, and let me know if there are other things you want to see more content on. Do we have any questions on my rambling from today?
Kylie, I've got one.
For
Tanya.
sure.
Hi.
Hi.
I missed it. Licensing required to actually have access to AI Builder. Did you cover that?
Oh, you should, to build and test AI Builder, should be included in your existing licensing, and you can, I didn't show you, you can access it here. So this is within Power Apps. If you go to more, you should see prompts here. Well, obviously I don't see it because it's over here, but that's where it would be if you hadn't used it. And then you can also do the same within Power Automate. And so to build the prompts and test the prompts should be free, but to actually use them within your app, I believe that's with your AI Builder credits. Let's run this test again because it was, see if I can get to that document, please. Are you not going to tell me here? Yeah, so when you use them, that used to be AI Builder credits that I believe is now Copilot credits. And so some of those are seeded in with your license, and then some of them you still need to buy externally. But we should check that. So I have 2 follow-ups for you. Let me write it down before I forget, which is our AI Builder credits and which licenses include Copilot in customer service / sales. I'll try and pull those up right in the next few minutes and get those for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And they keep changing just to make us confused.
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I think the AI, because it's confusing because AI Builder, I think it's just prompts now, but I don't think they haven't removed all of the things that say AI Builder. So, this is still saying AI Builder credits, but I don't think AI Builder credits exist anymore. I think they're all Copilot credits. But that doesn't necessarily make sense. I think that was just announced like end of last year sometime. So I think there's still some things being figured out in there. I think in your analyze, somewhere where I can analyze things, it can tell me how I'm doing. So if I go to
monitor activity,
here, it tells me like how many credits I'm using and all of that. But you'll see now I'm in, don't worry about that now. And now I've moved back to Power Automate. So is AI Builder part of Power Apps or Power Automate, or is it its own thing? Does anybody know? No. So yeah, but you see, so this one is AI Builder credits, and this one says Copilot credits. What does this mean? Nobody knows. Well, I'm sure somebody knows, but that person is not me.
Okay.
I'll have to look up some of that. Thanks, Tanya.
Yeah, thank you. This is awesome, Kylie.
Any other questions? If not, thank you everyone so much for your time, and happy for you to reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn, and send me other questions you have or any other feedback that you have on stuff. Tanya, did you have another question?
I do, Kylie. Yeah.
Of course.
In your experience, what do you find that clients are trying to tackle first with any of these builders or prompts? Are they focusing on building agents, prompts? What are you seeing out in this space?
Yeah.
In the real world.
In the real world, I think so. The last project I was on, we had a lot of ask for AI, but it was still most of it was very like kind of daydreamy. So it was like, oh, okay, we don't know how to do this, so let's just make AI do it, right? And so I think what I've seen customers struggling with is actually figuring out what do I need it to do, right? Like I think the strategy piece is going to be our really hard piece, because people are like, oh, this doesn't work, so we'll just make AI do it. But you still need to have some vision, right? Because I still need to be able to guide that AI model, and I need the data to support it. And I think our struggle is that most of our customers, they have bad data, they don't have the time to clean it up, and they know there's a problem, but they don't have a process to fix it. And so they don't know like what the AI is going to do, right? So I think what we were really struggling with is trying to figure out, okay, I could have like AI strategy for each little piece, but how do I come up with an overarching AI strategy? And I think there's really a gap there, and there's going to be a struggle there, because we were kind of in the point of, okay, let's like throw AI in these little points because that's like what we can get our hands around, when we have much bigger problems that could be improved so much more, but we don't even have like a grasp of how to do that, right? So I think that's where we're really going to see a struggle. I think we're going to see people start taking advantage of the little things like just Copilot in sales and our opportunity summary. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, Copilot should be able to do this. But I feel like people don't have enough understanding of Copilot or AI in general to even kind of get that vision of what the future can be, if that makes sense. I don't think that really answers your question.
No, it's good. It's good. I think
yeah.
There's always a backdrop to like industry as well, like what your regulation is, what your regulatory restrictions and compliance are too. So no, that's helpful. That's what I'm seeing as well. It's sort of like a dog's breakfast still right now.
Yeah.
And it's hard to hone it in. So awesome. No, thanks. That's really helpful.
Is there anyone else on the call who has other AI experiences in your organization that have been successful, or what has your team like adapted to? No, that's sad. I'm sorry, guys. We're all in the same boat. All right, I'll push it back to you, Brittany. Oh, Brenda, you have your hand up.
Yes, just for comment. I have in my current project a bot that, well, we powered with Copilot
Mm-hmm.
for patient. They have some questions and, well, we have some workflows, and when is needed, we turn this kind of cases real
Mm-hmm.
people. But it's a good thing with Copilot.
Yeah, so you're actually able to get the answers for your patients, and it's actually doing something and helping the business, right?
Yeah, we
That's great.
use omni-channels,
Yeah.
and in that case, well, when the patient has some issues or doubts or whatever, uh,
Yeah.
they raise the conversation, and later, well, they have a solution. Sometimes
That's
with
great.
the bot, sometimes with the real people, but both are working.
Yeah, that's great. So they're able to talk to the bot, get some of the answers, and it will escalate to a real person. That's great. I think so many people, that's where they want to get, and they can't even get there. So that's really exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Brittany, now it's really your turn.
All right. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to jump in or reach out to Kylie directly. If once we've wrapped up, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording now so we can do our random drawing. All right, stop recording. All right.